Hey, it's Jeff Zito, and thanks for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. I apologize that we're a little late. Usually put these out on Fridays, but with Hurricane Milton that came through Florida, that's where I'm based, in Tampa, Florida. We were out of power for a few days, so just getting it back on today. So I do apologize for the delay. Also, I wanted to bring to your attention Apple Podcasts. They have a chart, and on the music interview chart, the Celebrity Jobber Podcast is at number 2. So listen, I've been called number 2 plenty of times before in my life, and if we never get to number 1, that's okay. If we fizzle out right here and peak at number 2, I'm just okay with that. No problem. But I just wanted to thank everybody for listening and making the Celebrity Jobber Podcast a huge success. So please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, leave a review. Past episodes are up on celebrityjobber.com. And basically, we try to find out what happens to these celebrities if they never got famous. It's usually a big break, one huge moment for these people, make them famous, make us know them for who they are today. If that thing never happened, what might they be doing? And how about before they got famous? What did they do for work? And maybe they're doing something different now. My next guest was a member of the Tenderloins comedy troupe and, of course, a cast member on the show, the Impractical Jokers. Yeah, it was maybe about a year ago Joe Gatto decided to leave the show. He had some personal issues to take care of, which we're going to talk to him about. What did he do before comedy, his big break? What was his first job? And, of course, what is he doing now? We know about the Impractical Jokers, but since he's left the show, what's he been up to? By the way, if you are a fan of the Impractical Jokers, I spoke to Q, Brian Quinn, and Murr, James Murray of the Impractical Jokers. I don't know, maybe a year or so ago. You can go to celebrityjobber.com and listen to that older episode if you're a big fan of these guys. So regardless, Joe Gatto from the Tenderloins comedy troupe and the Impractical Jokers, my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Hey, Joe, what's going on, man?
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty great.
I love that.
Well, yeah, I mean, beats the alternative, right? I had the honor to talk to the other few guys. I don't know, maybe about a year or so ago, and so I'm glad to kind of finally complete my mission here. You know what I mean?
You got the full set now. Nice. You got the full set.
So I wanted to ask you a few different things. When the guys already told me, I got the full story from a lot of the guys how you met early on. But what I wanted to know specifically about you, Joe, I mean, like, what did your parents do? You're growing up in Staten Island. What did your parents do for work?
Yeah, it's interesting. My dad, I talk about this in my new tour, Let's Get Into It, which is my new hour that I'm touring with right now. But I always think about how people become the people they are, because I wasn't always this loud, boisterous guy. I was actually a really nerdy kid in OG. I was like an original geek back in the day. And my dad was a life insurance salesman. He used to sell life insurance. He was a vice president of United States Life. And he would come home from his 10-hour day selling life insurance, and I would meet him at the door with a multiple choice exam I had put together by reading the encyclopedias, and be like, "Pop quiz, Dad," and he'd be like, "What?" Yeah, so that was my dad. And my mom was stay at home for a long time, but I was the last kid. I have 2 older sisters, so when I got to 7th or 8th grade, my mom started working as the receptionist in my school. In my grammar school.
Wow.
So she used to just drive me to, so then she started doing that, and then she moved into reception and personal assisting throughout the rest of her career.
So funny, Joe. I mean, you just talked about how you're interested in finding out how people become who they are, and that's pretty much what this whole podcast is about. It's like, what if this one thing in your life never happened? What would Joe Gatto, what would you be? What do you think it was, your big break? Can you like even scale it down to like one thing? Was it a series of things, or what do you consider the
there's
thing?
a series of I think there's a series of moments, right? You could connect the dots, I think, to a piece. I don't know. I wouldn't say there was one moment, but there was definitely a couple moments that was for sure. And a lot of the stuff that's out of your control, you know?
Right.
So like I think one of the big contributing things was when we picked up Q, right? Q was an original member of the Tenderloins, which was our comedy troupe. Our friend Mike Baccio is a great guy. He actually got a big pay-in job opportunity and had to dedicate more time in that. We were always doing the comedy as a side hustle. So he got a real job that needed like real attention. So he had to leave the troupe. So that left a hole. And Q had always been like guest performing with us and doing whatnot. So we brought Q in full time. And that definitely added a different dynamic. Powerful writer, very funny gentleman with a different sense of humor from me especially. We had a different types. You know, I'm very physical,
right,
kind of comedian, big, goofy. He's pretty smart. He's a very well-read, smart gentleman. So it was like a different kind of thing. So I think that's definitely one piece of the puzzle. Another one was just like there's so many points we could just gave up, you know. We just didn't. So right. That was like. But then I think like the biggest thing for sure is just like when we came up with the concept for the show, not waiting for somebody else to produce it. Like we literally took our iPhones out and shot the Sizzle Reel that ended up being what True TV bought. So I think just putting it in our own hands and being like, you know what, after work, you know, meet me in Times Square and we're just going to go film this thing. And that's what happened, you know, just that moment, that day. We filmed most of it in one day. I think that was like a big day for us.
So Joe, how do you do that? Like I know that you guys were, you know, doing improv, you know, in high school and drama and stuff in high school, but like, it's like you come up with this idea and then you say, okay, let's shoot a sizzle reel. Like, how did you know what a sizzle reel was? And how did you know what to do at that time? You guys are young.
Well, we didn't know a lot. We weren't that young when those came time for the sizzle. I mean, we were younger when we didn't really start together till after college. You know, we did in high school, we performed together, but then after college, we had gone to different colleges separated. And that's when we formed the Tenderloins, our comedy troupe in 99. And we had our first performance in 2020. And it was kind of just like a different thing where we were just being like, okay, this is fun. And then different opportunities presented themselves. Like we ended up being on, you know, started moving into filmed sketch comedy. And back in the day, this is when MySpace and YouTube, the algorithm was a person. There was editors.
Right.
And the editors of that decided what went on the homepage. And we were just, you know, the people who ran MySpace and YouTube just really liked our comedy, just always featured us. And that kind of made us, you know, grow pretty fast, that always being on the homepage of this new platform. So, and then we're like, oh, okay, this is cool. Then we won a contest of a failed television pilot. It was called It's Your Show.
Oh, great.
Where the grand prize winner got $100,000. And it was hosted by Carson Daly. This is when everything was on the internet. And everybody was like, how do we put this on TV? So they came up with a format of giving sketch comedians a concept, and you had to compete by making the funniest sketch. And it was shown like America's Funniest Home Videos. It was a glossy, you know, floor kind of thing where they would throw the video clips. So we won the failed pilot for Fox. It never went to air. They still had to pay us $100,000.
Oh, that sucks.
And that's how we found one of our TV producers and got our agent. It just all started from that. A bunch of failed different ideas.
What happened, Joe, after college? Like, okay, so you're in high school, you're doing your thing, you go to college, everybody kind of goes to school. Did you get out of college and have like a regular job?
Yeah. I got an accounting degree in college, which is interesting. I mean, that's completely, no, I don't scream accountant. So I graduated college knowing I didn't want to be an accountant. So I moved into consulting, and I ended up at one of the big 5 consulting firms. I worked for Accenture Consulting. And after that, like, I was like, I don't want to do this in my life. I want to chase the dream of becoming a film director. Like, that's what I still want to be when I grow up. You know, that's what I'm actively chasing. So when I moved out to LA, I found myself working at Nordstrom's because it's pretty hard to become a director. You don't just do it overnight, you know? So I was doing that. And then I got into sales there. Then I moved back to New York and met up with the boys, and that's when their real career started, when we were all on the same coast again. Yeah,
it's kind of crazy because it seems like you were chasing the dream, but you weren't, you weren't a kid. You were, chasing the dream. You're, well out of you're out of college, you're in the working world, but you're still trying to do that. And
yeah, it was always the 5 to 9. You know, it wasn't the 9 to 5. It was always the 5 to 9.
Right. What was your very first job, Joe? Can you remember that?
Yeah, I used to scoop Italian ices for a guy named Tony at the Big Apple Bazaar that my dad knew for $2 an hour cash.
There's a lot of that. A lot of under the. I'm from New Jersey, so there's a lot of under the table.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of under the table first jobs there. $2 cash. And Tony, do you have a feeling Tony might have had some other businesses he needed to wash some money?
For sure. My last day, I remember he told me to go home early, and they locked the door of the ice cream shop, and I left and went home. Some guy come and he said, "Go home," and he shut the door, and I went back to my dad. I'm like, "Dad, I don't know if I should be working there."
You got so much going on right now. I wanted to touch briefly though, because and I don't want to get too personal, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to put out there because people wanted to know and people were concerned. You were the guy in the show that people that really loved. Not to mention, all the guys. Everybody loves all the guys, but you were different. And you left the show, but tell me, things are good. You and the missus are reconciled. Everything is fine back with you and your life, correct, Joe?
Yeah. The Gatto family's intact, very well. It's stronger than ever, and it's very nice to be able to say that. So yes, thank you. And people seem pretty happy for me too, which is really nice that people are always like that. I'm the happiest, I think, but people are always very nice about it.
So, I mean, with that being said, is there any chance of reuniting with the guys, maybe just temporarily? Because I know you do catch up with each other on stage sometimes, but is there any chance of a reunion, or is things actually going good now that you're spending a little more time at home, and maybe that's a good thing for you?
Yeah, it's a great thing for me, but there's no reuniting with people you're still friends with. We're just not friends from work anymore. People, because people don't see us on the show together, but we are still best friends in real life. I talk to the guys all the time. I was with Q this weekend in Vegas. I'll see Murray next week. It's just different because you have to, instead of working together and seeing each other all the time, you have to actually make the effort,
right?
Which is a little different. So, but I love working with those guys. We're collaborators, but I've moved on from the show. The show's moved on from me. I'll never say never, but I think, will I work with those guys again in a different capacity? Yeah, sure. I'm sure there'd be a combination of things. I loved working with them. They loved working with me, as far as collaborators. So I don't think there's any reason to be like, no, it'll never happen.
Right. Is it hard? I mean, when you're working as a group, is it different when you go out on your own and you're doing stand up? Is it scary? How different is it from what you used to do?
Yeah, it's completely different. You're not going through everything with someone by your side. That was one of the best things about the rise and ride of the show, is that you're in it with your friends. We could look over to our side and be like, I can't believe, you're not telling people about how when you played Madison Square Garden, you're like playing it with your friends, and your friends can understand the exact feelings you're going through. So that was always something that was really cool with it. And you always had somebody to collaborate with, bounce ideas off of, and fail with or succeed with. So that was always interesting. But now the really cool part is that all lands on you, right? Everything that, if you fail, it's your fault. But when you succeed, it's like you did it. It was a different type of work. So there's benefits, I think, to working both ways.
And a lot of different projects that you're working on right now. I heard about, I know that you're touring. I heard that you wrote a children's book. What else? I mean, tell me about everything that's going on in your life right now.
Yeah, so I had a kids book out. September was a big month for me. I had my kids book, Where's Barry, came out through Penguin Publishing Group, which is so fun. It's a picture book for 4 to 8 year olds based on a story of my son when he lost his stuffy before he went to bed and he had to find it. And anybody that knows and has children, that's a catastrophe waiting to happen.
Yes.
And he calms himself down. But it was written by a fan of Joker. I wrote it, but it was illustrated by a fan of Jokers. Luke Flowers did a great job making my kid into a cartoon. It's really cool. But he put a bunch of Easter eggs in it. Like there's a Captain Fat Belly action figure stuck in the closet. There's a box of Scoopsky Patatas in the book. And I didn't know he was a fan. So when I got the drawings, it was really cool to see all that,
Wow.
And then my comedy special up on YouTube. Messing with People special is out now for free on YouTube. You can check it out and see me as a stand-up before you come out to see me in real life with my new hour. So it's a completely different hour that I did. That was the hour I toured with for 2.5 years. So now I didn't want just to go away. So it was like, you know what, let's capture this and put it out there for people to see and see me as a stand-up.
Right on.
Great.
What do you think, Joe? Do you ever think about if this all didn't happen for you, like, because it is kind of a dream, right? Like, you know, it's like 4 friends from high school. You go on to, you know, create this thing. This TV show is super successful. Do you ever think that if this didn't happen, what you might be doing with your life?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen, right? I can't point to one other group that this kind of thing had happened to, you know, trying for 18-ish years and then finally making it and running with, you know, the show. I mean, the show's still going, but for me, it was like a decade of my life working over 9.5 seasons, over 300 episodes of TV. Like it's crazy. You know, most people don't even get a second episode, let alone a second season. Yeah, I think about that, but I even thought about it even more. Like I had to think about what's the next step when I stepped away, you know, and I couldn't do that show anymore. It's like, okay, what am I doing now? And I had to find a new path and work on new stuff and figure out a new way. And I'm pretty happy with the way it's been all panning out. I mean, my fans are unbelievable. They're the best. They enjoy me and follow me into each endeavor with open arms, and I love them for that. So, yeah, it's definitely something I've thought about and experienced.
I'm glad that you didn't go into accounting. I think that would have been bad for everybody, right?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't even balance my own checkbook.
You can go to JoeGattoOfficial.com. You can get tour dates up there and pretty much everything that you're up to and everything that's going on in the future. You have up on your website.
That's the official. Yeah, that's the official website, Joe Gatto Official. Don't go to just Joe Gatto. I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah, who is that guy?
The official one's got the links for, you know, I don't know, man. He's got the links for that's got the links for the special. So you can watch for free on YouTube, the tickets, you know, all my tour dates in city, information about the book, links to my charity, Gatto Pups and Friends, and then links to the podcast as well.
I hope that Joe Gatto guy doesn't come to you and try to, try to bribe you and get some money for the real website, right? They do that.
I don't think the JoeGatto.com is even live. I think somebody just owns the, you know, when you just buy the website, hoping that somebody will buy it from you.
That's it.
I don't think there's anything on the page. Yeah, there's nothing on the page when you go to it. It just is blank. But I think there's somebody owns it.
He's praying his big break is going to be when you contact him. That's what he's thinking.
He give you that money if you want the regular name.
Joe Gatto Official. That's Joe, Gatto, official.com. Pleasure speaking with you, Joe. Really great talking to you, man. Thank you so much.
So nice. I'm glad you completed the set. Thanks for taking time to make room for me.
You got it, my man. Take care. Pretty cool guy, isn't he? Joe Gatto talks about how he's different. He's different now than he was when he was growing up. He talks about how his mom used to work at his grammar school. His dad was a insurance salesman, and it seemed like he liked clowning around when he was younger, messing around with his dad, who probably wanted to give him a little bit of a backhand if he greets him at the door after a 10-hour day of work and gives him a multiple choice test that he got out of an encyclopedia. I thought it was pretty interesting that when I asked Joe what his big break was, he said it was Q joining the Tenderloins, Brian Quinn. There was another guy there, Mike. I didn't even know this. Another member of the comedy troupe who got a good paying job and said, hey guys, I got to get out of here. I got to quit trying to chase my dream and become a grown-up. And he did. I'd love to find that guy. Ask him if he has any regrets these days. Jesus. So yeah, adding Brian Quinn to the mix is what Joe Gatto says was a big break in his mind. So I think all the guys had regular jobs. Joe was actually an accountant after college, and then they were doing the comedy thing as a side hustle. Pretty much talked about putting together a Sizzle Reel and then won some contest to get their show on network TV, which, by the way, never happened, but they did win the $100,000, and they were able to pitch the show onto True TV and get the deal there. But I know from talking to some of the other guys on Impractical Jokers that in the beginning, they all kept their real jobs. They were, only making a few bucks on the side. It wasn't like a life-changing event for them initially. It became that as the show became successful and they kept touring. So Joe was an accountant before he became an impractical joker, but his first job was scooping Italian ice for a guy in Staten Island that his dad knew who may or may not have needed to wash some money. Joe left Impractical Jokers because he was having a little trouble at home, which, by the way, he is reconciled with his wife. Things are good. He's happy that the fans care about him in that personal way, and I thought it was pretty cool of him to talk about it. OfficialJoeGatto.com. You can see where he's touring, doing his comedy, and also has a children's book out as well. He also said his dream was actually to direct movies. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and hopefully Joe gets to accomplish his dream sometime in the future, which I think he'll probably be able to. Really, really cool guy. And thank you so much for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast, one of the top shows on the Apple Podcast music podcast charts and music interview charts. Past episodes are on celebrityjobber.com. Would love if you would subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. I really can't thank you enough for listening, and a lot of great guests coming up in the very near future here on the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. I'll see you on Friday. We'll be on time this week, unless another storm comes. Thanks again for listening. I'm Jeff Zito.